What is going on, you guys? So today I want to hop into another quick video review. This one is from a guy named Brandon Carter, and this video title is Habits That Made Him a Multi-Millionaire. So let's just go ahead and hop right into this.
In this video, I want to break down the 10 habits I've used to go from being poor and broke to being a multi-millionaire. And I know these habits will help you because over the last few years, I've helped lots of people build million-dollar businesses. And I say that to say the tips that I'm about to give you, not only have they worked for me, but they've worked for literally thousands of people I've coached. I don't have thousands of students who became millionaires. I have, about a handful, maybe like 20 students who became millionaires, but I have literally thousands who went from being broke to making multiple six figures per year. And even myself, I came from nothing. I'm telling you, I came from the south side of Chicago. My father committed suicide at an early age, and I was left with nothing. And this was during the recession of '08. Unemployment was at record levels. There were people who had master's degrees who were working at Starbucks because no one was hiring. In fact, all the companies were laying people off. In that environment, I was able to thrive and go on to become a multi-millionaire, self-made. And these are the 10 habits that help me do it. The first habit is to plan every hour of every day in your calendar. And let me show you what that means. Let me bring up my calendar. So here's what a week of my calendar looks like. This is an older week, but I use Google Calendar and I plan even when I sleep, all my meetings, all my work, all my workouts. I plan meals, I plan date nights, everything is in here. And this is super important. It's actually critical. After my father committed suicide, it was during the recession of '08 and there was nobody really hiring. But you know who's always hiring? Labor jobs. I would wake up super early. I would train people in the morning. Then I work security at the product store from 10 to 6. And then after that, I'd work for a moving company. But that was 5 days a week. And during the weekend, I wake up early and I train people. And then I would work as a weekend manager at my boy's restaurant in Queens. And I did that every weekend. This is like 12, 14-hour days. And I did that for 2 years, 7 days a week. I still got enough sleep. I still found time to work out and train. I didn't really neglect a whole lot of areas of my life, but I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not started using Google Calendar and planning out every hour of every day. After those 2 years, I wasn't broke no more. I had some disposable income. I invested that into my business, which at the time was online training. I was one of the first people to do online training, like one of the pioneers. I kept adhering to the practice of scheduling every hour of every day. What I noticed was I was getting so much more done than all of my peers or anyone around me. It felt like I had a superpower. This is my number one rule. This is how I'm able to run several multi-8-figure businesses, have a great relationship with my girlfriend, great relationship with my son, my nieces, my nephew, my family, still train, work out hard, 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, build a social media empire with millions of followers across all different platforms. And I'm just running circles around these motherfuckers. It's because they don't do this. So let's look at the calendar, right? This is how you get so much more work done. Not even just work. The beauty of the calendar is you can actually use it to choreograph your life. Bruce Lee said, if you love life, don't waste time, because time is what life is made of. The calendar gives you an opportunity to actually choreograph your life. So if you don't want to work as hard as me, but you want to excel in some other areas of life, then put it in your calendar. It works for every area of life. For example, one of my sales guys, he's telling me his wife is tripping. And I asked him, I was like, man, when's the last time, how much time you spent with her? Like, he's like, oh no, man, I'm just busy. I'm like, yo, man, when's the last time you went on a date with her? And it was like months ago. I was like, fuck, man, you need to put that shit in your calendar. You won't find time, you make time. The calendar is my number one tip on how to become successful. I'm nothing without this, right? Everything that's important to me is in the calendar. Now I have a video on how to set this up for your life. You should check that video out. It'll be in the description somewhere here. And this is super critical because every time somebody tells me, oh man, I just don't have time to do this, I don't have time, I say, let me see your calendar. And it's empty. I'm like, of course you don't have time, man. You're not planning it. And then I tell them to open up the screen time app on your phone and see how you spend the time. And I see that, oh man, it looks like you got tons of hours per week if you get off motherfucking TikTok and Pornhub. I can look at your calendar and predict your future. The next thing is tracking. I meticulously track every.
I mean, he basically said it all there, right? I mean, so it's kind of like just being a little bit redundant, but yeah, a lot of people do say like, oh, I don't have the time. And then he makes a good point, right? Like actually blocking it out in your calendar and seeing like, oh, you actually do have like several hours free a day. It's just like that you're using it for like, Netflix or TikTok or your phone time or doing whatever, right? Like, so just being more efficient with your time and making sure that you can accomplish a lot, because you can accomplish a lot more than you already are.
In my life where I'm trying to improve. So I keep a scale with me everywhere I go to weigh my food so I can track my macros and my calories. Every meal, everything I eat. You're just putting everything in your mouth like a whore and wonder why you can't lose weight. I track how much time I spend on certain activities. I track every dollar I spend, every dollar I make. I track how much water I drink per day in ounces. I track my sleep. I track everything. And here's why this is important. So I'm gonna give you an example. Here's a study, and it found that people who track their diet lost weight even without being told to follow a specific diet. They were not told to follow any diet. They just said start tracking your weight. So here's an article explaining the studies. It was done at Duke University. This is the article they wrote about it. If you want to read the whole study, you can read the whole study here if you're a fucking nerd, or you just listen to me. They put these people into 3 different groups. So one group, all they did was track their food intake and they lost weight. Another group tracked their food and they tracked their weight and they lost weight. The third group tracked their food, tracked their weight. They were also coached by somebody. They didn't tell them what to eat, but they gave them advice based off the results they were getting. The group that only tracked their diet, they lost weight and they kept most of it off for 6 months, right? So they tracked their diet for 3 months. Then they stopped. 3 months later, they had still maintained most of the weight loss, right? Because you start building habits. The second group tracked their diet and their weight every day. They lost a little bit more weight and kept a little bit more of it off even after they stopped tracking. The third group, who actually got a little bit of coaching, they lost the most weight, but they also continued to lose weight even without getting help, right? After the 3 months was over. I think the most important part is only the people who just tracked lost weight and kept it out. All they did was track how much food they were putting in their mouth, and they got results. And this is not an isolated incident. There's another study. This is the University of Connecticut. They did a study where all they had people do was track their diet and they lost weight. Just the mere act of tracking improves performance. Here's why this is important. So there's something called the Hawthorne effect. So back during the Industrial Revolution, we had all these factories. This was Henry Ford and the homies. They started building all these factories, making shit. Right? This is a factory I'm drawing. I know I'm an amazing artist. Try not to get too distracted by it. But they noticed with some factories were significantly more productive than others. There's a researcher named Hawthorne and his homies. They went from factory to factory to study this phenomenon. When Hawthorne and the crew showed up, they told the workers at the factory, hey, fellas, don't do shit different. We just want to observe. We just want to see what you're doing, see how you're working, because we're just trying to gather data. And what they noticed was every time they went to a new factory, without exception, productivity started to skyrocket. And as soon as Hawthorne and the crew left, productivity went back to baseline. What their conclusions were that the mere act of being observed improves performance. When you're tracking the metrics that are important to you, you become the observer. It's harder to eat the candy cake if you know you have to actually track that shit. You're gonna make better decisions just because you're more cognizant of what's happening. And you've seen this in your schools. I remember when I was in fifth grade, fifth grade, the teacher would lead a class. As soon as she leave, niggas start rolling blunts, shooting dice, bitches is twerking and shit. And then the teacher comes back and then everybody's back in their seat acting normal, like normal kids, man, ready to read, ready to play Simon Says or some shit. And I'm sure you guys have all had similar experience when you were in grade school. That's because of being observed improves performance. But it's not just like that with diet or classrooms. It's like that in all areas of life. So I take that to an extreme. So I set up little habit trackers. I can't show you the newer one because there's stuff in here. Secret shit. You know what I'm saying? But I track when I wake up. I want to be up before 5. At the time I was waking up before 5. Now it's 5:30. But I did that 80% of the days. How much time I slept. This is not time in bed. It's how much time I slept. I track it with my Oura ring, my workouts, meditation, tracking my macros, protein intake, calorie consumptions, calorie burns, and then I have a formula to do my deficit I was cutting, how much water I have per day, tracking my finances, if I post it to YouTube, if I post it to IG, other stuff I'm working on, learning Spanish, how much time I spend studying, how many hours I work per day, other shit that's important to me, time with friends, how much time I spend with my girl, if she was tripping or not. She wasn't tripping 90% of 90%, man, cool. The 10% was probably, I get it. If my dick just started bleeding, I'd probably be in a bad mood too. But I'm tracking these things every day. And what does that do? It improves performance, right? I showed you studies that show it improves performance. Any area you're trying to improve, start tracking it. I have a video on how to set up a habit tracker too. You should check that out. The link will be in the description. But this is super important. It's super critical. Start tracking the metrics that are important to you. Start tracking your habits, and that will automatically improve performance. Even if you didn't follow a legit plan on how to improve, just the mere act of tracking will improve your performance. If you don't believe me, go back and read this study. So anything that's important to you. You want to be a better dad, track how much time you spend with your kids. If you want more money, track how much you track your spending. I track every dollar I spend, every dollar I make. If you want to improve your relationship with your significant other, track how much time you spend with, or him, whatever you're into. I don't care. It's like the 90s, love whoever you want. But that mere act of tracking will improve performance. The third one is waking up early. Now, of course, you can't.
And that's a good point. Like, you might think like millionaires or billionaires, they're like not good at tracking for some reason. Like oh, they're just like throwing money around. They spend it all the time or whatever. Or, supercars and this and that. I mean, and some of that is, there's some truth to that. But like, I think at the same time, like, they have to be good at tracking their money if they're going to remain a millionaire or remain a billionaire, right? Because I think that's the difference. A lot of people who remain that way and don't lose it all, like, there's a difference between the kind of person who can make it all back and the kind of person who can get it and then will lose it and then never get it back again, right? It's because they don't know how to do it. And then at the same time, like, they're probably not tracking things. And I think the funniest part about that, he kind of didn't exactly mention it, but he talked about like tracking his macronutrients and like when he was eating with a scale. I mean, there's not a lot of people who have the kind of physique that Brandon has. So, a lot of people be like, oh, dude, that's crazy. Like, you don't need to track everything you eat, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, that's the difference between, Brandon and most people. I mean, you see that he's shredded, right? So if you want that kind of body, then, it might be a decent idea to replicate those kinds of actions.
Still be successful if you wake up late, for sure. But these are the habits that help me become a multimillionaire. I know you might find some people who wake up fucking middle of the day or some shit, but I'm talking about the habits that help me become successful. And so for a long time, I woke up at 4:30. I did that for years. I woke up at 4:30. What I noticed was I got more done during the day, not because there's more time, right? You still get the same amount of hours each day, but what happens is there's less distraction early in the morning, so you get more done during your time. It feels like you have more time because you're getting more done. There's less distraction. If you get up early and start going after your goals first thing in the morning, what happens is you start to get some wins early. You start to get some wins, some micro victories each day. And here's the thing about winning. When you get these victories, they give you a certain amount of confidence throughout the day, right? So by the time you get to work or you start interacting with other people, you already stacked up a bunch of victories. And now you moving into those situations with a victorious energy, right? Either maybe you worked out or maybe you started working on a project or you did something to help advance your life before the workday started. And you really feel like you're ahead of the game, right? This is a study that shows that when people win something, when they have victories, their actual testosterone rises momentarily, but victories or winning increases testosterone and improves performance. That's what this study shows. You can go read that on your own time, right? It's super helpful to go about the rest of your day. It sets the tone for the day, right? You start the day off winning, and it's hard to lose when you don't have no distractions. You up before the sun, you out getting shit done. By the time the fucking competition is up, you already win, man. These motherfuckers been losing in their sleep, right? Because you've been up winning before they even got up, and that makes you feel good. You know, like that feeling is important. There's some research. I came across a study that shows that waking up early, it improves your mood, leads to greater satisfaction, minimizes health problems. The research is pretty clear. It actually improves your mood, and I think it does that by allowing you to get some wins done early. First thing in the morning, you start your day off winning, and you're not rushing throughout the day. You ever see somebody panic, getting into work last minute? They're never in there smiling. They're not performing at their best when they fucking run into work right at the deadline, fucking photo finish. Okay, I made it. Fuck that, man. You want to stroll in there? I'm already there. Motherfucking step your game up. I've been winning all morning. One thing that's important, people don't talk about this. When you're waking up early, that means you went to sleep early, because you still got to get 7-8 hours of sleep per night. If you go to sleep early, that keeps you out of fucking trouble. You get what I'm saying? You're not going to be up getting high, fucking people you shouldn't fuck, fucking your life up, right? All the bullshit happens after 10. That's when the bullshit starts happening. So if you go to sleep early, it keeps you out of trouble, man. And that's what people don't talk about, right? Because sometimes success is not just doing the right things. A lot of times it's not doing the wrong things. And make no mistake, most of the wrong things happen after 10 p.m. The next habit that we become a multi-millionaire was surrounding myself with the right people.
One thing I'll add to that, he basically mentioned it, is like getting all these wins early in the day, or especially like earlier, when you have some quiet time. That's really important, like having the quiet time before everyone else is awake. That's one of the big reasons that people wake up that early. Like no kids, no distractions, no work, no this or that, right? Like you can accomplish anything you want. And the one thing that I'll add, that I've actually made another video about, is called Eat the Frog. Basically, is eat the frog means you don't want to eat the frog, right? It's like, it's gross. You rather eat like the strawberries or whatever, like the more appealing thing on your plate. But if you eat the frog first, then the frog is the hardest task, right? The thing that you're going to procrastinate, the thing deep down that you need to do, that's this big thing that you're worrying about, causing anxiety. Just do that first. You have a big win, and then all the other things you do after that, you can basically do like the hardest thing, second hardest thing, third hardest thing, right? Instead of checking your emails first thing, like, because that's basically like a time wasting task. Like, oh, I'm working, but like, really, you know what the big thing is you need to do, what you've been putting off and avoiding, and the magic basically lies in that, the work you've been avoiding. Let's keep going.
I was living south side of Chicago. My friend group from that time, almost all of them are dead in jail or have a leadership position in a street gang. And had I stayed around them, I no doubt would have met one of those three fates. It's super important that you surround yourself by the right people, because you become like the people you're around, whether you want to or not, involuntarily. The way you dress, your accent, your religious beliefs, your political beliefs. The people around you probably have similar beliefs, and you just adapted them for the most part without thinking about it. Your accent is because you were around certain people growing up. You weren't born with that accent. Accent is not in anyone's DNA. You picked that up. That's why I sound like a slave. Harriet Tubman was bringing people to Chicago. I'm descendants of brave men and women who refused to be held in bondage. And that's why a lot of people from Chicago have a little southern twang in their voice. There's studies that back this up. So here's a study that showed that if poor people make rich friends, they have a significantly better chance of becoming rich themselves. It's a long study about upward economic mobility. You can check it out if you screenshot it, read that if you want. They also have a part 2 of the study. It was social capital, determinants of economic connectiveness, right? They found that the more poor people have rich friends, the more likely they are to become rich. It's because rich friends can help them get good jobs, and they can learn important skills from them. But they also pick up the mindsets, they pick up the beliefs, they pick up some of the habits. You're going to become like the people you're around. There's a quote from the article that said, when it comes to upward financial mobility, the most important thing was having rich friends. It was like the number one factor. But it's not even just with money, it's also with health. In this one particular study, it found that if one person is obese, their friends' chances of becoming obese increase significantly. Not only their friends, but their siblings, their spouses. If one person becomes obese, you have a significantly higher chance of becoming obese. Here's another study showing that, okay, if your spouse is going through a weight loss diet or protocol or regimen, and they lose weight, you're likely to lose weight as well without even following the protocol. You know what I'm saying? Just the fact you're around someone losing weight, you're likely to lose weight. They call it the ripple effect. And then my favorite study, and this study shows that if your friend becomes obese, you have a 45% chance of gaining weight. All right, we already talked about that. Here's where it gets crazy. But if a friend of a friend, a motherfucker you don't even know, your boy's boy, gets obese, your likelihood of gaining weight increases by 20%, even if you don't know the friend. But the study also went on to say that if a friend of a friend's friend 3 layers deep. If that motherfucker gets obese, you have a 10% chance of gaining weight. If it does that with weight, it stands to reason. Judging from the other studies, it's similar with income. It's similar with income. Then the study showed it's similar income. If you got rich friends, you're likely to become richer. All my friends get more money. Nima made way more money since I met him. I know because I pay him. If you don't believe this, only the real players know this shit. If you're having sex with 2 women, what you notice is their periods start to link up. Yeah, I swear to God they do. They don't even know each other unless you really pimp it. The next habit to help me become a multi-millionaire baller shot called a fly ass handsome nigga is you keep your phone away from you while you're working. So when I was really first grinding, trying to get that first million, I had 2 phones, and one was a phone for business, and one was a phone for friends and family. So the business phone had social media and all that shit. The friends and family, its only job was to communicate with friends and family. Right? When I was at work, I kept the business phone on me. When I was with my friends and family, I kept the business phone away from me. When I was going really hard, I would put both phones away from me. And what it does is eliminates distractions, man. Social media, phone calls, interruptions. Man, fuck that shit. You gotta hustle. You gotta get money, man. Now I only have one phone, but the phone has different focus modes. The iPhone now has different focus modes, so now I can make my phone do that with a push of a button instead of having to switch phones. But I still keep my phone on do not disturb basically all the time. No apps have any notifications. If I get a call, it goes straight to voicemail. Nobody's heard my phone ring ever. My girl, my mom, my son's mom, my COO, those people can get through on most of the settings, but there's some settings where nobody can get through. And sometimes I still put my phone on the charger in the bathroom, close the door, and get to work. Distractions are the main thing that can suck up your productivity. If you don't believe me, open up the screen time app on your phone. Right? This phone, a lot of great things have happened from the phone, but it's also keeping a lot of you guys in bondage, right? Because never before in human history have you been able to access so much dopamine with one device, right? With one device, you have unlimited access to entertainment, video games, YouTube, Netflix, pornography, gambling, all in one device. So you got to control it instead of letting it control you. And I know a lot of you guys think that, I'll just ignore it. But I'm telling you, man, the best thing to do is just to put it in another room when you're working super hard. Abstinence is always easier than moderation. It's easier to just not do something than it is to do it sparingly. When you do something moderately, you're kind of like teasing yourself, and now it's like you have an itch for it. But if it's locked in the other room, it's just another room, man. You're more likely to adhere to leaving it alone. Same thing when I'm with my girl, same thing when I'm with my son. When I'm really concentrating, I'm not on my phone much, and I schedule the time that I need to do phone shit. The next habit is my diet. Listen.
And one last thing to add to that, because obviously it would be better to do what Brandon said, is like put your phone in another room, do it like on the put it on the do not disturb settings, or a setting that I found I didn't even know existed on the phone is looking up grayscale, or a mode where you can turn the whole screen gray. So basically it's like black, white, gray, right? And it's so funny because it's the mere fact that there's no colors. It's like, ooh, colors. Like the mere fact that there's no colors makes you less interested. Like your lizard brain is like less interested in the phone. So you just put it down faster and then you start doing productive stuff.
I'm not one of these guys that say, if you don't have a 6-pack, you're a loser. I'm not that guy, right? I'm talking about diet as it pertains to performance. Even before I went keto, I got a lot of productivity from fasting, doing intermittent fasting 16 hours a day. During that fasting window, I was so productive. And as soon as I broke my fast, it seemed like it all shut down. And I was eating carbs at that time. That definitely contributed to it. I noticed that when I was fasting, though, I would get so much done. So my goal was to get as much work done as possible before 3 p.m. when I broke my fast, because I knew it was all downhill from there. And that's when I realized how much diet actually impacts my performance as it pertains to work and getting this fucking paper. Here's why the fasting works. When your body consumes carbohydrates, it converts those carbohydrates into glucose, and that's the fuel your body runs off. When your glucose levels go above 110, your pancreas secretes a hormone called insulin. Insulin's job is to flush out the excess glucose. Otherwise, you die. This is why people with diabetes have to inject their insulin. Otherwise, they die. So it's a good thing we have insulin. However, insulin will indiscriminately get rid of your body's blood glucose, right? So it'll take it from your brain, and it'll take as much as it can get. Sometimes it takes more than it needs to, and this is one of the reasons why a lot of people get tired after they eat. It's one of the reasons. There's other reasons, but it's one of the main reasons people get tired after they eat. The insulin spike has taken away so much glucose. Now they don't have no energy. Now I noticed when I went keto, I got the same effect as fasting without having to fast. I'm not telling you to do keto, but what I do want you to do is to learn how to manage your blood glucose levels. So there's a great book I read recently called The Glucose Revolution. It wasn't about being keto, it was about managing your glucose levels, keeping them stable so you don't get these huge insulin spikes. There's a lot of things you can do. You could go keto, and I'll talk about that in a minute, or you just manage your glucose levels. So one of the ways you can manage your glucose levels is to not eat sugar like a kid. Motherfuckers be wondering why they tired. And I was like, what you eat for breakfast? Lucky Charms? Like a motherfucker, you ate candy for breakfast. Of course you're tired, right? Because it's just all sugar. What do you think that's going to do to your glucose levels? It's going to spike them through the roof. The insulin levels going to spike, and now you're going to be tired. That's what the sugar crash is. You want to really control your glucose levels. A few things you can do is to make sure you consume protein with your carbs if you're going to eat carbs. Another thing you can do to manage your glucose levels is to eat a salad before you eat your meal. This is stuff I got from the book. Or go for a walk after you eat. Like a 10-15 minute walk after you eat seems to stabilize glucose levels because you're burning a lot of shit off. Or you could just go keto like me. I wore a continuous glucose monitor for a month to track my glucose levels, and every day, almost every day, the app it was connected to thought that I was fasting because my glucose levels were so stable. Here's a study that shows that keto is from the University of Kentucky that shows that the ketogenic diet can improve cognitive function. Right, so it's not just me talking. Then here's another one here. Here's another study that shows the ketogenic diet improves cognition. There's a reason why, right? The ketogenic diet was invented by doctors in 1920 as a natural treatment for children with epilepsy because the drugs were super harsh on the kids at the time, so they wanted to come up with something natural, and that's where the ketogenic diet came from. What they noticed was these kids stopped having seizures, right, because it affects your brain in a positive way. So ketogenic diet has positive impact on your brain. That's why these kids had stopped having seizures. They also got ripped as well. And here's another study basically showing that the ketogenic diet, how it impacts your brain and cognition. It's really good. It's really good diet for you. But if you don't do that, at least manage your glucose levels. Some cereals can contain as much sugar as a Krispy Kreme donut. Huberman had a doctor on his podcast. He's one of the heads of Harvard University's psychiatric ward. He's treating actual patients with the ketogenic diet. Yeah, Dr. Chris Palmer. If you want to check, he has an interview with Dr. Chris Palmer. And in that video, he talks about how he treats fucking crazy people. He just puts them on keto, and a lot of these people aren't crazy anymore. Their whole lives improve. And he also wrote a book about, using diet to help with psychiatric disorders. I've noticed that it helps me a lot because, I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 back in the day. It's 2, new shit, man. These motherfuckers with that old bipolar, man. Step your game up, man. We on the next bipolar. We on the new bipolar now. My therapist, they said I don't need medication because I handle it so well. And a big part of that is my diet. If you don't believe me, believe Chris Palmer, one of the heads of Harvard University's psychiatric ward. I know some of you guys need to hear a white man say it before you believe it, so go ahead and check that out. That leads me to the next habit that's helped me become a multimillionaire is meditation.
By the way, Andrew Huberman, I've mentioned him a few times on the channel as well. He's got a lot of really good stuff that will help you understand like the science behind all this and basically the health benefits. He'll explain it in a way that's very digestible and make it easy to understand. So you're going to get a lot in terms of optimizing and maximizing your health by watching his stuff.
This has been super critical for me. I've been meditating for 15 years straight now. I meditate twice a day, 15 minutes each session, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. Meditation has an almost comical list of benefits. It's so long. But here's how it's going to help you make more fucking money. Here's a study that shows that just 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation can actually shrink your amygdala. Why is that important? Well, the amygdala is a part of your brain. This is a brain that controls your fight or flight system, right? Your fear centers, right? Let's say it's around right here. That's my artist rendition of a brain. And 8 weeks of meditation actually shrunk that amygdala. So what does that mean? That means you're less anxious. You have less fear. Because that's where the fear comes from. That's where the emotion of fear comes from, your amygdala. So people who meditate, not only do they report being calmer and more in control of their emotions, the brain scans show that that's the case. That's not all. There's another study that shows that meditation increases gray matter density in the region of your brain that we call the neocortex. So the neocortex is the part of your brain, it's like in your frontal lobe, and human beings have a larger neocortex than other animals. That's why we are able to create languages, create mathematics, create economies, build buildings, make YouTube videos, and other animals struggle with that, right? Meditation is shown to improve this part of your brain. This is where logic happens. It increases density in that part of your brain and shrinks your amygdala. So what does that mean? You're making better decisions, man, because you're less fucking scary and emotional and you're more logical as a result of just meditation. Here's a study that shows that people who meditate, they experience significantly less stress, right? They're less stress, less anxiety. There's another study showing that meditation lowers cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It's the hormone your body secretes when you're stressed out after 4 months of meditation. Here's the thing. One of my boys told me this yesterday, man. He was struggling with something and I asked him, man, have you been meditating? He's like, nah, man, I ain't meditate. He said, man, I tried it and I wasn't getting all the results you say you get. I was like, well, how long were you doing? He said, no, I never did it regularly. Just every time I tried it, I ain't feel nothing after. I'm like, motherfucker, it's not magic. It doesn't happen instantly. You want to think of it like working out. I think of it like training my brain, like exercising my brain. If you hit the gym once, you're not going to be different today. You won't even be different this week. You have to do it consistently over a long period of time. Studies show that 8 weeks is when you start seeing benefits. 8 weeks of consistency. So you got to do it consistently for 2 months to start seeing benefits. Studies show, and I'm not telling you, studies show that you'll be able to think clearer. You'll be less emotional and more logical. You'll be able to control your emotions more. And how it helps me, it helps me respond instead of react. I remember, I was in a stressful situation with my girlfriend. We were at the plane station. I call it the plane station because I don't like the word airport. It's a plane station. And our flight kept getting delayed. And then I was like, fuck it, let's get on another flight. But it was at a different airport. It was we had to leave Miami airport and go to Fort Lauderdale. Then that flight got delayed. And I remember her saying that she was very shocked at how calm I was. I wasn't trying to be calm. It's just because I've been meditating for so long, I'm less likely to react involuntarily to things. I can respond instead of react. I've been in a lot of stressful situations around different people and they're panicking. They're like, man, how are you staying so calm? And I didn't even notice I was being calm. I was like, oh, just not a spaz. Like I'm just cooler than you. But I realized, no, I meditate. That's why I'm cooler than you. That's why you flipping out and shit. And I'm chilling like some normal shit for me, man. Just with this, man. Ain't no big deal, man. We're just gonna do this instead. It's served me well because in business or success in life, you're gonna run up against a lot of challenges. It's never gonna be easy. Your life is not gonna be an unbroken boulevard of green lights. You're gonna have a lot of setbacks. The better you can respond to them instead of reacting or spazzing out, the more successful you'll be. Warren Buffett said, if you can't control your emotions, you can't control money. Warren Buffett, he's one of the richest people of all time. And I just want you to think about, there's 2 leaders. You can follow either one. First one, he's always spazzing out. He's always tripping. He's fucking panicking and shit. The next one is always calm. The same situation, he's always calm. Like, listen, we're just gonna do this. We're gonna attack it. We're gonna handle it. Who do you want to follow? And now that you know who do you want to follow, who do you want to be? Who does your girl want to follow if you're supposed to be the leader? Who do you want to do business with? Meditation is the only thing I know that will give you that. One of my heroes, Ray Dalio, Bridgewater Capital, one of the top 10 richest men in the world, he said that meditation was one of the number 1 reasons why he's successful as well. So it's not just me. It's also Lil Ray. The next habit to help me become a multimillionaire was investing in myself. When I was struggling, I would make sure that I made twice as.
That's a really good point that he made. Is like people quit the gym after a really small amount of time because they're not seeing results. but like they don't really get that they actually need to keep like putting in the work, keep going, because it's like these compounding effects, like a snowball basically. And it's the same thing with like meditation and that mental work. Is it's not going to show up right away. It's not going to be easy. I mean, especially like the first few times you meditate, it's like you're having a really difficult time just focusing on your breathing and just being present, because all you're thinking about is like, what I have to do later today, worrying about this thing from the past, the future. But it's like you're being like bombarded with like all the overthinking that you normally do. So obviously it takes some training to be able to clear everything up, gain some clarity, and focus in your life, and also through meditation. This stuff is going to help you a lot, especially with the emotional control that he mentioned.
Money as I needed to survive. I put aside 6 months of expenses to cover my expenses, and then the rest of that money I would just invest in myself. I wasn't investing in stock market or real estate or anything at the time. I would just invest in more knowledge, because I know that if I wanted to actually succeed, I would need more information. And I would invest in books, courses. I remember I took a speed reading class so I can read more books in my early 20s. I would buy every course, go through them, take notes. It did a few important things for me. Once, it helped me make some friends who were on the same wavelength, right? I started meeting people at different events on the same trajectory. And remember, you become like the people you're around. So if your friends are out here trying to get money, you're more likely to get money as well. And I just started learning more.
And the saying for that, I know he mentioned this earlier in the video, but he didn't use the quote. It's basically like you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with the most, or the 5 people that you allow to influence you the most. So if you're hanging out with people who are on a low wavelength, not really accomplishing things, well, you're probably going to be similar, right? It's like what he was saying about like if someone else around you, or like a friend of a friend of a friend, like 3 levels deep, is obese, like it's likely to affect you too. So be very careful what you consume and who you surround yourself with.
And I started seeing more avenues for success, and I started developing more skills, and I was able to deploy those skills against my goals. I just started investing in myself and investing in my business. I needed a new computer. This was back in the 2000s. Back then, it was cheaper to build your own computer instead of buying a cheap one. And I had to learn how to build computers, and I built one. That was investing in myself, learning that skill. I had to learn how to edit these videos. I edited the first 1,000 videos on my YouTube page. I had to teach myself these things. Investing in myself, it made me better, and I had more skills, and those skills allowed me to make more money. It's super important. Invest in yourself early. The next habit to help me become a multimillionaire was learning sales. I was lucky. My dad was a good salesman. Doesn't know my story. I grew up super poor, Southside Chicago. Then I got sent away to military school because I got in a little bit of trouble. I was a bad kid. And then I got sent away to military school. When I went to military school, my dad's business started working out. He was struggling the whole time up until I was like fucking 13, 14, or whenever kids go to high school. By the time I was done with high school, I was making $3 million a year. And adjusted for inflation, that'd be $8 million in today's money. There's a few things to learn from that. One, he had to work hard. 13 years, struggled for 13 years before he started balling. You motherfuckers are ready to quit after the first time you try anything. But he was doing the sales for his business. And he taught me sales, and I learned how to do sales from him. We was poor, so I wouldn't have a babysitter sometimes. I'd just be at the office with him, listening to him do sales calls the whole time while I'm playing with G.I. Joes and shit. And he was able to make what would be $8 million in today's money. He fucked it up. He was broke by the time I left college, so I missed the whole fucking wave, right? And then he killed himself, and then we were back to being poor again. He didn't leave me no money. He didn't help give me no money or nothing. What he gave me was the skill set of sales. And I've been able to use sales to make so much money. If I didn't have the skill of sales, I wouldn't be where I am today. That's because without business, if your business is not making sales, you don't have a business. It's one of the most important parts of a business. You have to get people to exchange currency for your goods or service, and sales is what does that. If you can learn sales, you'll never be broke. If shit hit the fan and I had to start over, I'd be good. I'd be right back here super quick, probably faster, because now I have the skills of sales. I have some videos on sales if you want to check it out, but it's one of the things that's really helped me the most. The last habit to help me become a multimillionaire is reading. So I became an avid reader at around age 16 or 17. First book I read was Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. I remember reading that book. I was like, damn, how did I make it this long without knowing this information? And that made me want to read more books. I'm like, damn, how much more shit is out here that I don't know? And I kept reading. I even took a speed reading course so I can read even faster. At one point, my reading speed was 600 words per minute. It's not that fast anymore. You got to practice to keep that speed up. But when it was that fast, I was going through about 2 books a week, and I still read a book and a half a week now. And the beauty of that is you learn so many things that you can apply to your business, to your goals, to your life, and you have a bigger lexicon of information to pull from. I find myself in situations, everybody's asking what should we do, and I'll remember a book I read that talked about what to do in this situation, right? Because experience is the best teacher, but it doesn't have to be your experience. In anything you're trying to accomplish, there's probably somebody who did it and wrote a book about it. And if you read that book, you'll be in a better position to accomplish your goal. That's been my experience. I would be nothing without the books I have. Like, these books ain't decoration. I read these books. I read more books than this. I have twice as many books as this in storage that wouldn't fit into this apartment. Like, I really do this. It's really helped me a lot in life. If you want to know what books you should read, I have a video on my top 50 books. Go check that video out right now.
By the way, I've noticed, like, I've seen people where they're like stubborn about reading, like, oh, like, I don't read, bro. What are you talking about? Like it's cool to not read, to not learn, right? So hopefully you don't think that. And if you do, well, it might help you to reframe that, like, because obviously, like, it'll help you become way more successful when you start reading. I mean, think about it like this, right? Someone made a bunch of mistakes, failed a bunch, and then succeeded in a particular area. Like they built some expertise in an area and they put it in a book. And you could choose to not read it in a short amount of time. Or you could read it, gain those lessons, and apply it to your own life so you can basically succeed faster than the amount of time it took them. Because some of those books, it took them 10, 20, 30 years to learn those lessons to be successful in business. And you're thinking like you're the impressive part is that when someone decides not to read something that will take them a lot less time, right? Like you imagine like it takes you a couple hours to read a book maybe or less, and you're like, oh no, I'm good, right? And Brandon, Brandon's one of these guys who like, I think Alex Hormozy does this too. Like he gets like the audio book and then also the Kindle or like the PDF version. So basically he listens and reads it at the same time, and it helps you basically soak up all the information a lot faster. I mean, I agree with a lot of the stuff that he said in this video. It's really funny too because I believe Brandon. Brandon's been on the internet, on YouTube at least, for definitely more than a decade. I used to work out to his videos. He had like high intensity interval training videos where he was like working out with like a group of people and doing like a circuit. And I used to do that when I was younger and I had no gym membership and just a pair of dumbbells, and was doing like calisthenics. It was Brandon Carter and then Mike Chang. And Mike Chang had a similar channel called Six Pack Shortcuts. I think you can still find some of their videos up to do like the at-home workouts. So I highly recommend you check those out if you don't have access to a gym and you just want to do like body weight workouts at home until you have access to weights. Because I think doing both, some calisthenics as well as weight training is really going to help you out, as well as other types of training too. But it's funny. I mean, Brandon's a good guy, obviously pretty funny and pretty smart dude. So definitely recommend checking out more of his videos. Hopefully this was helpful for you in some way and you can apply it to your life. Thanks for watching.